Hi guys, as highly requested on TikTok, here's my bedroom wainscoting accent wall tips and tricks video. This video is for beginners and anyone on a budget or anyone that doesn't have a whole lot of tools to work with. I'll also be going over some do's and don'ts that I learned along the way and also be sharing the materials you'll need for this project and where you can find them. I never thought this video would be so highly requested, and that's why I didn't film the entire process, but I will definitely walk you through it the best I can. I'm working on another accent wall design like this one at my friend's house very soon, and I'll be filming and posting the entire process in a tutorial style video next week, which will be a huge help for beginners as well. I'm just going over the most asked questions I received on TikTok in this video. As highly requested, here is the list of everything you need to complete this wall project. I got everything at Home Depot. You can get it at Lowe's. You can get a lot of these things on Amazon. But the most important thing you need is the 3.5 inch is what I used, or the 2.5 inch MDF casing. Some people call it baseboard, door trim, whatever it is. I got a nice 10 pack at a good value, so I recommend getting your hands on one of those from Home Depot. First tip and step is to find a blank and undisturbed wall. This means try avoiding walls that have windows, doorways, step downs, lots of outlets, vents, and etc. This will just make your life so much easier because you won't have to work around all these blocks. If you're not new to this or you're comfortable cutting into the casing, then by all means go for it. You can work around it, you have the skill level. But it's also a design tip to choose a wall that is blank and probably the biggest wall in a room, which is like the focal point, to use as an accent wall. Second step is to measure the length and the width of the wall and draw a little sketch. Use grid paper or sketch paper, it doesn't matter. Just start planning your design, make as many drafts as you need. I knew I wanted my boxes to be squares, not rectangles, and I knew I wanted an odd number of columns and rows because that's more appealing to the eye. I opted for a 20 by 20 inch box and divided the width and the length of my wall by 20. Then I subtracted 20 inches times 5 columns from the width of the wall and 20 inches times 3 from the rows from the length of the wall. I divided those numbers by the number of columns and rows in the wall to account for the connecting pieces of the wall. To finalize my design. Then I went ahead and cut all the pieces for the boxes. I wasn't comfortable with making 45-degree cuts, so I went ahead and just did straight cuts and joined my boxes at 90-degree angles. The spackle is going to hide the joint later on, but I know the pro thing to do is make 45-degree cuts whenever possible. You'll also notice two sides of the boxes are longer than the other two are shorter. When you do a 45-degree angle cut, all sides will be the same. But again, this video is for beginners, so this part will just require 2 different size lengths to accommodate the width of the casing to ensure your square is even. You'll notice I only cut my boxes and the border pieces using my measurements and blueprints because walls are actually not completely straight and flat. If I cut everything in advance, I risk having the pieces be too small or too long, and I wanted to have the flexibility when sticking those pieces in. After that, I carried the border pieces and the boxes to my room and started spacing them out as per the design and measurements. Once I was happy with where they were, I dispensed the adhesive on the back of the casing, pressed it against the wall. It stayed in place with no issues. I did try nailing one of the boxes and it was way too much work. The nails showed and it was causing the casing to lift. If you have a nail gun or you're using chair trim, you won't have this issue. I personally wanted to save on renting another tool. So the No More Nails adhesive worked great because, as you can see, these pieces are quite small and they're not very heavy, so that glue is perfect. And I've had this up for a few months now and nothing's budged or moved. I worked in small sections, so 1 row at a time, so I don't get overwhelmed. So just work in small sections, be patient, and you'll get through this. Because the pieces are so small in this design, you don't need a whole lot of the casing. I actually have a lot of pieces from my value pack still left, and that's what also makes this specific design so affordable. Once your design is on the wall, get your pink to white spackle and start filling in the cracks. Don't pack in too much, it will take longer for it to dry and a lot of work to sand off the excess. We want to minimize the sanding as much as possible for our convenience. Once the spackle is dry, it will be completely white. Take a second look at it to see if you need to add another layer. If needed, go ahead and just perfect it. You're trying to achieve an even finish and you're trying to minimize the appearance of the joint as much as possible. Once you're happy with it, just sand off the excess spackle until it's smooth. If you have any electric sander, that's awesome, but to save some money, I just use a sanding sponge and some elbow grease. Now we move into the silicone part. Make sure you wipe off all the excess sawdust. This part, I solemnly swear to take my time with next time. I was very messy. So firstly, when you dispense this in between the wall, make sure the spout is not too big, otherwise way too much product will dispense and it'll be a huge mess. Patiently work in small sections because you don't want it to dry out before you actually run your finger through it. Once you dispense it, spray some soapy water along the silicone, and then after that, run a finger or your popsicle stick across the silicone. Be sure to wipe your popsicle stick or your finger periodically, just so you have a nice clean seal and swipe every time. And then just paint and wallpaper your wall however you'd like and you're all done. I hope this video was helpful. I promise the next accent wall video will be a lot more thorough and you'll see every single step. If you have any questions, leave them down below. I'd be happy to answer them for you. If you try this, don't forget to tag me on Instagram or TikTok. I'll leave all the description of the items used down below. Thank you so much for watching. See you soon.